Fast forward to 1998, my brother was born at the end of May, and we usually find camp at the end of June. So he was only 6 months old the first time he came here. Now, I know it's hard to explain what it's really like up here. We've hired so many people that thought they understood, but they just got here and they couldn't handle it. But it's probably one of the last places you would ever want to bring a baby, but she did. And the next year my sister was born, and the year after I was born. So now there were basically three babies running around in a very dangerous and secluded place, while both my parents worked full-time up here for the people that we had come to hunt and fish. I think by the time we were all born, it was mostly just fishing, but so my dad would go out on the river all day, and I remember when we were, I don't know, maybe 5 or so, we would have like fights every morning about who would get to go out on the river with him, or sometimes he just took all three of us. Where we called upriver, there was a big waterfall and a very steep cliff, and there are black bears all around, more back when we were younger, but we used to see them pretty often, and because we're in such a remote area, there's not a lot of food around except for, the food that we have. So if we saw a bear and it smelled our food, it would stick around for a while. But back to upriver, maybe I should leave this part out, but it was a different time. So anyway, there was a spot where we parked our regular canoes, and then there were rapids that my dad had to drive a Zodiac, like a rubber boat that could bend more, up through the rapids, because the canoe just wouldn't have made it. And sometimes he had to make 2 trips to take people up, because there were just too many people to all fit at the same time. So he would leave the 3 of us there alone for the second trip up, and he would just tell us, so where the Zodiac was, it was kind of under a rock cave sort of, and he would tell us to just huddle up in there and wait 15-20 minutes until he got back, and we never did see a bear, but I don't know, it was just kind of weird, but we didn't really know any different. And then, so once we got up there, we would just spend the whole day with him, or watching the fishermen, or watching him net fish, or we took naps on the rocks. Even the fishermen took naps on the rocks, usually after lunch. I also remember we were really into dinosaurs when we were little, and we had a bunch of plastic dinosaurs that we played with. And one year we hired a guy that was actually one of the best guys we ever hired, and he made us little boats carved out of wood that we would play with. I also remember when I was maybe 6 or so, we found a big pothole upriver, and that was really cool, and it was big enough that each of us took turns getting in it, and we took pictures. A few years later, that same guy that made us wooden boats accidentally cut his arm while using a chainsaw, and we were all too young to understand what really happened, but I guess it was pretty bad, and my dad couldn't get in contact with anyone for a while to get him flown out, but eventually he did, and he was fine, as far as I know, but unfortunately he got sick and passed away not long after that, from some disease. I forget what it was, but and that was the start of our years hiring terrible guides.